Cole had started his morning like any other rancher on a long stretch of lonely land. He woke before sunrise, fed his horse, checked the fences, and packed enough water to last the whole day. The sky had been clear then, soft and pale, with no warning of the trouble waiting ahead. Cole wanted to ride toward the hills to check on cattle that sometimes wandered too far. The land there was rough, but he knew every trail like the back of his hand. He had lived alone for years, and the silence of the land felt more like company than loneliness. By midday the sky changed. A thick layer of clouds rolled in fast, darker than he expected. The wind grew sharp, pushing sand across the open fields. Cole looked up and knew a storm was coming, but he believed he could make it home before it hit. He nudged his horse forward, hoping to beat the wind. But the storm did not slow down. Instead, it came crashing in with a roar, shaking the ground under him. The first strike of lightning hit somewhere behind him, close enough to make the horse jump. Cole tried to calm the animal, but the wind made it behave like it was facing a predator. The land turned dangerous in minutes. Loose rocks slid under the horse's hooves, and the storm made visibility almost zero. Cole tried to steer them towards safer ground, but the horse slipped suddenly. Its hooves lost grip on a muddy patch, and the animal stumbled forward, throwing Cole off balance. Before he knew it, he was falling down a slope. He hit rocks, rolled against dry bushes, and felt a sharp crack as something struck his ribs. The world twisted and flipped until he landed hard at the bottom. His head throbbed, and his breath came in short, painful bursts. He tried to stand, but pain shot through his side so sharply it forced him back down. His vision blurred, and he tasted dust on his tongue. The storm kept raging above him, and Cole realized he couldn't stay where he was. If flash floods came, the small dip in the land where he lay could fill with water. He tried again to sit up, using his hands to push off the rocks. His left arm trembled, and his ribs screamed in pain, but he forced himself to drag his body a little higher. Every inch felt like a mile. He told himself he just needed to reach a safer spot, somewhere with shelter. Somewhere he could wait until the storm eased. His horse had disappeared. The wind carried away the sound of its hooves, and Cole knew he was completely alone. After several attempts, his arms gave out. He slid back down, landing roughly against the dirt. He lay still, breathing fast and uneven, staring at the dark sky. A strange quiet settled inside him, the kind of quiet a man feels when he knows he might not make it. Cole was not afraid to die, but he felt frustrated. He had survived worse storms, harder falls, and longer nights. He didn't want it to end here on a forgotten slope with no one to know what happened. He closed his eyes to rest them for a moment. But something made him open them again. A shadow moved against the rocks ahead. At first he thought it was the storm playing tricks on his mind. Then the figure stepped closer, tall, broad, and moving with steady, confident steps that didn't match the chaos around them. A woman appeared through the dust and wind, her height towering above any person he had seen in years. She wore clothes patched many times, strong boots covered in dust, and her dark hair tied back with a strip of cloth. Her shoulders were wide, her posture firm, and her steps made the rocks shift under her weight. She stopped a few feet from him and studied him with steady eyes. She asked if he could speak. Cole nodded slightly, though the movement hurt. She moved closer and knelt beside him, her presence blocking some of the wind. Her hands were large and powerful, yet she touched his shoulder gently as she checked the wounds on his side. Cole felt embarrassed to be lying there helpless, especially in front of someone who looked so strong and unshaken by the storm. She told him not to move. Her voice was calm, deeper than most women he had known, but steady and sure. She examined him with experience, as if she had helped injured people before. She said he was hurt badly. Cole tried to push himself up and insisted he could manage on his own, but his body betrayed him once more. He collapsed halfway through the motion, gasping as pain spread through his chest. The woman shook her head and said softly, "You need my strength." Cole frowned. He didn't like relying on anyone. He had lived alone for so long that accepting help felt wrong. He muttered that he would be fine, that she should go somewhere safe instead of staying in the storm. She didn't move even an inch. "You won't live if you stay here," she said simply. The storm will get worse. Cole tried again to move, even though his whole body fought against him. He didn't want to look weak. But the moment he tried to lift himself, his vision darkened, and he felt dizzy. The woman watched him with quiet patience, as if she had expected this. Then she said something that surprised him. "You need my strength, and I need you to stay alive." Cole didn't understand. Why would a stranger care whether he survived? Why would someone need him alive? He opened his mouth to ask, but his strength left him again. The wind roared, and dust filled the air. His breathing grew shallow. He felt the world slipping away piece by piece. Through the blur in his eyes, he saw the woman reach toward him. He wanted to tell her not to touch him, not to trouble herself, but no words came out. She placed her strong arms beneath him and lifted him as if he weighed nothing more than a cloth bag. Her strength shocked him, even in his half-conscious state. She held him tightly against her shoulder, protecting his injured side from the wind. His head rested against her arm. He felt her warmth through the cold storm. She carried him with steady steps, each one firm and purposeful, as if she knew exactly where she was going. The storm raged around them, but she did not slow down or stumble. Cole drifted in and out of awareness. Each time he blinked, he saw flashes of rock walls around them, narrow paths, and the woman's silhouette guiding them deeper into some canyon. Her breath stayed calm, her steps sure, her grip never loosened. At one point, he heard her whisper something, maybe to him, maybe to herself. It sounded like a promise that she would not let him die, that she would get him somewhere safe, that she would not let the storm take him. Cole tried to ask her name, but only a faint sound came out. She answered anyway, as if she understood the question he couldn't speak. "My name is Mara," she said. "You will be safe soon." Cole wanted to ask why she cared, why she was helping a stranger in the middle of a dangerous storm. But his body felt heavy, his thoughts moved slowly, and darkness pressed in from all sides. The last thing he felt before losing consciousness completely was Mara tightening her hold on him, protecting his broken body from the storm as she carried him into a hidden shelter carved out of stone. A place where no one else would have found him. Cole didn't know it yet, but the moment Mira grabbed him from the ground, their lives had already changed. Cole woke slowly, as if his mind was swimming through heavy water. The first thing he felt was warmth. Not sunlight, but the warm glow of a fire nearby. The air smelled of wood smoke and dried herbs. When he opened his eyes, he saw a small stone shelter. The walls were rough and uneven, built by hand. The ceiling was supported by thick beams cut from nearby trees. There were no fancy things inside, only tools, blankets, and a few clay pots lined neatly along one corner. Everything looked simple, but strong, made by someone who lived by working with their hands. He tried to move, but stopped when pain shot through his ribs like a sharp reminder of the fall. Before he could attempt again, he heard footsteps. They were slow, steady, and heavy enough to make the floor dust tremble just slightly. Then Mara appeared from behind a curtain made of animal hide. She carried a wooden bowl in one hand and a cloth in the other. Her presence filled the small shelter, but she moved with surprising calmness. She set the bowl beside him and knelt, checking his bandages. Her hands were gentle, but he could feel the strength in her fingers even through the soft cloth. Cole watched her silently, feeling unsure. He had never been this close to someone so imposing. She asked him how he felt, and he answered honestly, tired, sore, and confused. Mara gave a small nod. She told him that he had been unconscious for almost a full day. She had carried him through the storm into this hidden shelter she had built over the years. She had cleaned his wounds, wrapped his ribs, and given him water. Cole tried to thank her, but the words felt too small for what she had done. She brushed his attempt aside, saying anyone with a heart would have done the same. But Cole wasn't sure about that. Many people in the world walked past strangers without offering help. Mara had risked a dangerous storm and carried a grown man across rocky ground to save him. She offered him a sip of water, holding the bowl steady while he drank. The water was cool, with a slight taste of mint, probably from the herbs she mixed in to help with pain. Cole asked where they were. Mara explained that this canyon was her home. She lived far away from towns, choosing silence over noisy crowds. She had survived off the land for years, hunting, collecting firewood, growing small crops during warm seasons, and repairing everything she used. Cole asked why she chose to live alone, but Mara didn't answer right away. She looked at the fire for a moment, her eyes thoughtful. Then she said life had taken her family one by one. Illness, accidents, the harshness of the wilderness. She had seen too much loss. After losing the last member of her family, she stopped trying to stay near the world. She built her own shelter here, a place no one bothered to visit. Cole listened in silence. He understood that kind of loneliness. He himself had chosen life on a ranch because it kept him away from the noise of towns. He asked her how she knew how to treat wounds. Mara told him her mother taught her long ago, and she had learned more through experience. She said she had found injured travelers before, though not often. Some survived, some didn't. Cole did not miss the sadness in her voice at the last part. When she finished checking his bandages, she moved to the small fire and stirred a pot of soup. She brought it to him and helped him sit up slowly. Every movement hurt, but she supported him carefully with one arm behind his back. The closeness made him feel strangely calm. She fed him slowly, making sure he didn't choke or spill. Cole found it strange to be taken care of. He wasn't used to feeling so helpless, and it bothered him slightly, but Mara didn't make him feel weak. She handled him with respect, as if saving his life was not a favor but something she believed he deserved. As the hours passed, Cole drifted in and out of small naps. Whenever he awoke, Mara was doing something useful, sharpening tools, cutting herbs, sorting firewood, or checking his temperature with her hand on his forehead. She rarely spoke unless necessary, but her silence did not feel cold. It felt steady, like the way mountains stand without making a sound. By evening, Cole felt well enough to talk more. He asked how she found him. Mara said she had been gathering herbs near the slope when she heard the horse and saw the dust rising. She climbed higher and discovered him lying injured. She knew the storm would get worse, so she did not waste time thinking. She lifted him and brought him here before the worst of the rain hit. Cole remembered parts of the journey, the blur of rock walls, the warmth of her arms, the sound of her steady breathing. But hearing her talk about it made him realize how much he had depended on her courage. He asked her something that had been on his mind since first saw her. Why she said she needed him to stay alive. Mara paused again, as if she was searching for the right way to explain it. She said she had lived in the hills for so long that silence felt normal, but silence also built tall walls around the heart. When she saw him lying there, hurt and alone, something inside her stirred, a reminder that she was still human, still capable of caring. She said that saving someone helped her feel connected to the world again, even for a moment. She needed that feeling, not because she expected anything from him, but because living alone for years had made her fear she might lose that part of herself forever. Cole listened, surprised by how honest she was. Most people hid their feelings behind proud words or quiet walls. Mara spoke with simple truth. As night settled in, the wind outside softened. Mara added more wood to the fire. The crackling sound filled the shelter, mixing with the distant call of night birds. She told Cole he needed rest and helped him lie down comfortably. She placed extra blankets over him and checked that the fire would last until morning. He asked if she would sleep too. She gave a small smile and said she would rest after she made sure. His fever was fully down. Cole watched her settle near the fire on a woven mat. She did not lie down completely, instead sitting half upright like someone used to, waking fast in case of danger. He wondered how many nights she had spent like this, guarding a place no one else knew. Her strength was remarkable, but her quiet loyalty impressed him even more. Hours passed and Cole had trouble sleeping. Every time he shifted, a dull ache reminded him of the fall. Mara noticed even the smallest movement. She rose, checked on him, adjusted his blankets, or gave him more water. She treated him with the same care someone would give to a family member. It felt strange, warming, and confusing all at once. At one point during the night, Cole whispered that she didn't have to watch him so closely. Mara replied firmly but kindly that she didn't mind. She said he had survived the fall and the storm, and she wasn't going to let pain or fever take him now. Cole closed his eyes, feeling a strange comfort in her words. The next morning, sunlight peeked through the cracks in the stones. Cole woke to see Mara grinding herbs. When he tried to move again, she was at his side instantly. She helped him sit up, gave him more soup, and checked his ribs carefully. Her touch was steady and focused, not rushed or careless. Cole thanked her again, but Mira simply said, "You're here. That is what matters." By midday, Cole felt a little stronger, but still far from standing. Mara encouraged him to rest. She told him healing takes time and his body needed patience. Cole realized he had no choice. The only thing he could do was trust her. As afternoon light faded, Cole watched Mara work outside the shelter. She carried heavy stones to reinforce one wall and chopped a fallen log with ease. Her movements were powerful but precise, as if she had trained her body through years of surviving alone. When she returned, her arms dusted with dirt. Cole found himself studying her strength with quiet admiration. Mara noticed his gaze and raised an eyebrow. Cole quickly looked away, embarrassed. But she gave a small, soft laugh, a rare sound, and said she was glad he was awake enough to notice anything at all. The sound eased his tension. That second night, Cole fell asleep faster. He felt safer now, knowing Mara was watching over him. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring or how long he would remain in this canyon, but one thing had become clear. Mara wasn't just helping him survive. She was slowly pulling him out of the loneliness he had carried for years, and he didn't yet realize he was doing the same for her. The morning of the 5th day arrived with a soft breeze brushing across the canyon walls. Cole woke before Mara this time, which surprised him. He moved slowly, testing the strength in his body. His ribs still hurt, but the pain felt different now, dull and manageable instead of sharp and punishing. When he tried to sit up, he succeeded without needing help, though he still felt unsteady. Mara stirred from her place near the fire, lifting her head the moment she heard him shift. She watched him quietly for a moment, making sure he wasn't pushing himself too hard. When she stood, her movements were strong and fluid, like someone used to waking every day ready for hard work. Cole told her he felt stronger, and she studied his face carefully before nodding. She came to him and helped him stand, keeping her hand ready in case he lost balance. When his feet touched the ground, he wobbled slightly. Mara's arm came around his back, steadying him with natural ease. He felt small next to her, but not in a way that hurt his pride. She made him feel safe, even when he could barely stand. She guided him outside into the open air. The canyon looked different now that he could see it fully awake in daylight. The walls were tall and reddish-brown, with streaks of gold where sunlight struck the stone. A narrow stream ran along one side, and Mara's tools lay neatly arranged on nearby rocks. Cole noticed footprints hers surrounding the shelter, showing how many times she had gone in and out to gather things. She helped him walk slowly, step by step, letting him lean on her arm. At first, Cole hated how weak he felt, but Mara treated the moment with such calmness that his embarrassment faded. She told him every injury needed patience and hurrying would only bring more pain. Cole agreed quietly. They spent the next few days like this. Mara helped him walk a little farther each morning. Sometimes she supported almost all of his weight without complaining. Other times she let him try alone, but stayed close in case he stumbled. She spoke little, but her silence felt warm, not distant. One morning, Cole told her he needed to return to his ranch soon. His animals, tools, and house were waiting. Mira nodded, but said he still wasn't ready to travel alone. She explained the path home was long and rough. He needed someone strong enough to help him cross the rocks and protect him from anything unexpected along the way. Cole didn't argue. He knew she was right. That afternoon, Mara began preparing supplies for the journey back. She packed dried food, filled water containers, and checked the strength of her handmade walking sticks. Cole watched her work with focused determination. She always moved with purpose. It's almost like someone following rules she had lived with her whole life. When everything was ready, she sat beside him and said they would leave early the next morning. She reminded him that if he felt tired, he must tell her immediately, not push through it. Cole promised, though deep down he wasn't sure he could keep that promise. His pride often whispered louder than reason. The next day began with soft sunlight leaking through the cracks in the stones. Mara woke him gently, handed him water, and helped him dress. His shirt felt tight around the bandages, but he managed to move without sharp pain. They stepped outside, and Mara closed the shelter door behind them, securing it with a thick wooden bar. Cole didn't realize it then, but she expected to return someday. This shelter was not just a place of safety, it was her world. The first part of their journey went smoothly. Mara walked in front, choosing the safest path, while Cole followed slowly behind her. Whenever the ground narrowed or a rock seemed unstable, she reached back for his hand or arm. Her grip was steady, giving him confidence he hadn't felt in days. They walked through winding canyon paths and dry riverbeds. Birds flew above them, calling out across the open sky. Cole felt grateful to see the world again beyond the shelter walls. At the same time, he realized how much he had grown used to Mara's quiet company. Even in silence, she made him feel less alone. By midday, the land grew rougher. The path climbed upward and the sun beat down stronger. They took breaks under small patches of shade, where Mara made sure he drank enough water. She watched him carefully, reading every small change in his breathing or posture. She treated his safety as her responsibility, it's not a favor. When they reached the ridge overlooking Cole's ranchland, Mara paused. She scanned the distance with narrowed eyes. Smoke curled up near his land, thin, rising from a place that shouldn't have smoke at this time of day. Cole's heart tightened. He tried to hurry forward, but Mara stopped him, placing her hand on his arm firmly. He told her they had to move quickly. Something was wrong. She agreed, but reminded him to stay behind her no matter what. She said danger might still be near, and in his condition he would not be able to defend himself. Cole wanted to argue, but one look at her steady gaze told him she wasn't making a suggestion. She was stating a truth. They descended the ridge cautiously. Cole's heart pounded with worry for his ranch, his horses, and everything he had worked for. As they approached the land, he saw broken fence posts scattered across the grass. Tools were thrown on the ground, and the barn door hung crookedly, as if someone had forced it open. Cole felt anger rise inside him, but Myra placed a hand on his chest, grounding him. They walked toward the barn together. The air smelled of smoke, but not fire. More like something had been burned inside to hide a smell. When they reached the doorway, they heard voices. 2 men were inside, rummaging through Cole's things. One searched through crates, while the other looked through saddlebags. They talked casually, believing the ranch was abandoned. Cole stepped forward instinctively, wanting to confront them, but Mara blocked him with her arm stretched across his chest. She stepped into the doorway instead. Her tall shadow filled most of the entrance. The 2 men froze when they saw her. Their eyes widened in shock. One reached for a tool like a weapon, but Mara simply stared at him, calm, unshaken. Her presence alone was enough to stop them. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't threaten. She just stood there, a pillar of strength, silently warning them that this land was no longer unprotected. The men exchanged uneasy glances. Finally, one of them muttered something about leaving. The other nodded quickly. They dropped everything and rushed out through a side door, running across the fields until they disappeared behind the distant hills. Cole let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Mara turned to him and checked his face to see if he was shaken. Then she guided him inside the barn, making sure there was no one else hidden. Everything inside was a mess. Things were thrown everywhere, and the intruders had clearly searched every corner. Cole sank onto a wooden stool, overwhelmed by the sight. Months of work had been disturbed, but Mara wasn't looking at the mess. She was looking at him, checking if the stress had caused him more pain. She knelt beside him and examined his ribs gently, adjusting the bandage when she noticed it had slipped during the walk. Her focus on him made the chaos around them feel smaller. She told him he was safe now, and that he shouldn't worry about the mess. She said tools could be fixed, fences could be rebuilt, and the barn could be cleaned. She reminded him that he had survived something far worse. He had survived the storm, the fall, and the lonely days of pain. Cole realized something in that moment. Mara hadn't just saved his life in the canyon. She had also kept him safe now, in the place he called home. Her strength, once unfamiliar, had become something he relied on without noticing when it happened. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Mira helped him walk back to the ranch house. The land still looked damaged, but everything felt different with her there. Cole felt a sense of calm he hadn't felt since the storm. He also felt something else. Something warm and confusing, knowing that Mara had stood between him and danger without hesitation. He wasn't sure what it meant yet, and he didn't know that. She was already preparing herself to leave. The sun was sliding down behind the hills when Mara finished helping Cole settle inside his ranch house. The place looked dusty, the floor had footprints, and some furniture was out of place. Clearly, the intruders had searched through everything. Still, Cole felt relief being home. He sat carefully on a wooden chair near the window, breathing slowly as the pain in his ribs eased. Mara stood near the door, her eyes scanning the room like someone searching for danger that might still be hiding. She checked the corners, lifted fallen items, and made sure nothing was broken beyond repair. When she finished, she dusted her hands and turned to him with a quiet expression. Something about the way she looked made Cole uneasy. It felt like she was preparing herself for something he wasn't ready to hear. She told him she would fix the fences tomorrow morning and help clean the barn. But her voice didn't sound like someone planning to stay. It sounded like someone who was making sure everything was safe before they left for good. Cole watched her tie her pack together, tightening the straps with a firmness that made his chest tighten for reasons that had nothing to do with his ribs. He asked where she was going. She didn't answer right away. She walked toward the window, looking out toward the hills where the sky was turning gold. Then she said quietly that her work was done. He was home. He was alive. He was strong enough to stand and walk without collapsing. Her duty to him was finished. Cole tried to stand, but his ribs protested. Mara reached out quickly to steady him, but he gently pushed her hand away, insisting he was fine. He wasn't. He felt a sharp ache, but he didn't care. Something more painful than his injury was rising inside him, the thought of her leaving. He asked her why she wanted to go back to the hills alone. Mara looked at him with calm eyes, saying the hills were where she belonged. She said she wasn't made for ranch houses, crowded towns, or living near people. She told him her life had been silent for a long time, and silence was something she understood. She didn't want to become a trouble for him. She didn't want him to feel responsible for her. Cole told her she wasn't trouble. He told her she had saved his life, protected his home, and stood in front of danger without fear. Mara shook her head gently. She said she didn't save him expecting anything in return. She saved him because her heart wouldn't let her walk away. She turned toward the door. Her shoulders were straight, her steps slow, as if some part of her wished he would stop her, but she didn't dare hope for it. She lifted her pack, slung it over her shoulder, and placed a hand on the wooden door. Cole felt something inside him snap at the thought of her walking out and disappearing into the hills forever. He took a painful step forward and called her name. For the first time since he met her, she hesitated. She didn't look back at first, but her fingers tightened slightly on the handle. When she finally turned around, there was something gentle and uncertain in her expression, softness she rarely showed. Cole asked her why she really said she needed him alive. She stood very still, as if the question touched a place in her heart she kept hidden. Then she said words that felt heavier than the stones in the canyon walls. She said that living alone for years made her forget what it felt like to care for someone. Saving him reminded her that she still had a heart that wanted to protect, to help, to connect. She said when she carried him through the storm, she felt something inside her wake up. Not romance, not fear, but a sense of purpose she thought she had lost. Cole listened silently, feeling each word settle into him like steady footsteps on the earth. Then she said she had no right to stay in his world. She believed she belonged in the hills, where danger and silence were easier than the complicated feelings people shared. Cole took another step toward her, ignoring the pain. He told her she was wrong. He told her he had lived alone for years too, and he understood how silence could feel safe. but he also said the silence in his life had started to feel heavy long before the storm. He told her he did not want his home to feel empty again now that she had filled it with life. Mara looked at him with a soft shock in her eyes, as if she had never expected him to speak like that. She slowly lowered her pack to the floor and walked closer, but stopped a few feet away, giving him space. She asked him carefully if he was saying these things out of gratitude or out of fear of being alone. He answered with simple truth. He said he admired her strength, her kindness, her patience, and her quiet way of caring. He said she made him feel safe in ways he had forgotten were possible. And most of all, he said she didn't just save his life, she made him feel alive again. Mara's breath caught in her chest. She had heard many things in her life, but not words like these. She knelt down slightly, lowering herself closer to his height so she could see his face clearly. Then she asked him if he truly wanted her to stay. Cole nodded without hesitation. He didn't step back when she moved closer. He didn't hide his feelings behind pride. He simply said yes. He said he wanted her here not as a stranger passing through, but as someone who belonged on the ranch with him. Mara lowered her gaze for a moment, thinking. He could see the conflict inside her, the part of her that believed she didn't deserve a place here, and the part of her that desperately wanted one. When she lifted her eyes again, the uncertainty had softened. She said she would stay, but only if he truly felt comfortable with her presence. Cole gave a small, tired smile. He told her that her presence had become the safest part of his life. That answer broke whatever wall she still had left. Mara placed her hand gently on his shoulder, careful not to press on his ribs. Her touch was warm and steady, filled with a quiet promise. She said she would fix his fences, repair the barn, rebuild the land, and stand beside him in every storm to come, but only if he didn't mind her, strength becoming a part of his daily life. Cole responded simply that he didn't mind. He needed her strength, and he needed her loyalty. Just as she needed a place where she wasn't alone anymore, together they walked back into the house. The land outside still carried signs of damage, and the sky warned of more storms in the future, but neither felt afraid. Mara began cleaning the space, moving broken items, gathering tools, setting things back in order with a kind of quiet joy she hadn't felt in years. Cole watched her with a warmth in his chest. It spread through him like sunlight returning after a long winter, as night settled over the ranch. Mara placed her pack near the door, not as something to pick up and leave with, but as something that now lived here. She laid out blankets, prepared a simple meal, and made sure Cole sat comfortably near the fire. Cole looked at her, standing tall and strong in the warm glow, and realized she didn't look like a visitor anymore. She looked like part of his home, and though neither of them said it out loud, they both understood something deeply simple and deeply true. She had needed him to stay alive, and he needed her to stay.